Have you ever finished reading a chapter or listening to a lecture and thought, yes, I've got it? Then, a few days later, someone asks a simple question and suddenly you can't remember the answer. This is a very common phenomenon known as the illusion of competence. It happens when information feels familiar, so we assume we've learned it, but real learning is something different. The real test of understanding is whether we can retrieve knowledge when we actually need it. Think about a surgeon during an operation or a pilot responding to an emergency. They cannot simply recognize information. They have to recall it immediately and use it correctly. Research in psychology shows that this act of retrieving information from memory is one of the most powerful ways of learning. Every time we actively recall knowledge, we strengthen the neural connections that make future retrieval easier. Interestingly, testing helps even when students don't know the correct answer yet. Simply trying to remember prepares the brain to learn the correct answer more effectively afterwards. So, why should we use testing in higher education? First, it helps both teachers and students identify which topics still need more attention. Second, preparing for a test encourages students to organize information instead of simply rereading it. Third, testing helps students discover the difference between recognizing information and actually being able to explain or apply it. And finally, solving different types of problems teaches students to transfer knowledge to new situations rather than memorizing isolated facts. Another important point is that not every test has to be graded. Short, low-stake quizzes help students become familiar with testing and reduce exam anxiety. So, how can we design better tests? Whenever possible, use open-ended or problem-based questions. They require students to think, explain, and apply knowledge rather than simply choosing the correct option. It is also helpful to mix questions from different topics instead of grouping similar ones together. This encourages flexible thinking and helps students recognize patterns across different areas. Another effective strategy is to involve students in creating test questions themselves. Designing good questions requires a deep understanding of the material and often leads to excellent classroom discussions. We should also remember that a certain level of challenge is useful. According to the Yerkes-Dodson law, moderate pressure improves attention and performance. Our goal is to make testing a learning experience rather than simply a source of anxiety. Finally, encourage students to use simple retrieval techniques on their own. For example, after reading a chapter, they can close the book and write down everything they remember. Or they can create their own flashcards and revisit previous questions in a different order. The key message is simple. Let's think of tests not only as assessment tools, but as learning tools. When combined with projects, discussions, and presentations, they help students do much more than memorize information. They help students understand it, remember it, and use it when it really matters.